Hi there crafters, it's Louise with you today. Welcome along to my channel. It's an art journal share today. I'm getting so close to the end of this art journal. It is a work in progress and we are now halfway through 2023 and I had aimed to finish it and start a new journal, but I think that's going to be next year's goal. So what I want to do today is actually use some stash items. So I've had these stamps for such a long time in my stash because I thought they were really cool. So it's the King and Queen, like a card sort of stamp, but I've actually never used them. I had nothing that I really wanted to use them on. They didn't suit a scrapbook layout. They were just something that I thought was cool that was in my stash. And so I thought I'd challenge myself to actually use them. So as you can see, I have stamped just onto some tissue paper and I'm going to use that as my background for this particular layout. Now, the King and Queen do get a little bit lost in the actual finished layout, but in some instances, the process of creating in my art journal is purely just about getting something on the page in that initial phase. So it's, in this case, it doesn't end up being the way I start, but it does utilize the stash and it gives me that starting point. Now you can see I've also stamped one of those queens onto just some white cardstock, and I play around a little bit with trying to fussy cut it and use it somewhere on this sort of rainbow background that I'm creating. Now, nothing too technical here. All I'm doing is using lots of water and my watercolor palette just to create this sort of rainbow in the background until I'm happy with how those colors are blended together. So sort of as you can see, I'm playing around with that little queen cutout and I'm sort of undecided about what I want to do here. This particular layout really, it really challenged me. I tried various different things to try and get something done. It was quite a process and it's not one of my favorite projects, but I think that it was a lesson learned in that creative process in terms of how I started and how it progressed. So I hope that in watching these videos you're sort of gathering some techniques or some learning or taking in something that might help you in your own art journal journey. Okay, so again, trying to get this little queen on this page. How am I going to make this happen? I cut it in half, I had a little play with it, decided that, it still wasn't quite what I wanted. How was I going to get it on the page? And then I decide, because it's the queen and, the Queen of Hearts is kind of like that. It's almost a way to describe yourself, because you might think of yourself as the Queen of Hearts. Sometimes if I'm going to pick a favorite sort of playing card, I would pick the Queen of Hearts. So I decide to go with a heart in the background, and again still trying to get that queen on the page, but it does end up getting left off because I just can't make it work. So it's at this point where I'm pretty happy with the heart. I really like the heart over the background. I have a go at fussy cutting that queen out. At this stage, it still doesn't make it on there. It's not working for me. So at the end of the day, I just decide to leave it off. If I had liked this after I fussy cut it, I could have stamped an entire image, not one that I'd cut down the middle, but it still didn't work for me, so I got rid of it. Okay, thinking more about how I'm going to progress with this, and I decide that I'm going to fill in my heart with some more hearts, and then once I'm happy with how that heart background is looking, I decide to fill in some of those hearts with some stamping. So I've pulled out some random stamps, different sort of elements that are going to fit into that. And I don't want this stamping, it doesn't have to be too perfect, it doesn't need to be completely in the heart shape, as long as it sort of has that general sort of feel. And as you can see, I've gone with a flower, some stars, and then a circle sort of element as well. Now my permanent ink was a little bit dry. I was waiting for a re-inker. I'd ordered one, so I had to use a non-permanent ink, in which case you sometimes have to hit it with a little bit of heat just to let it dry so it's not going to smudge everywhere. Now these Art by Marlene, they're sort of like a glitter glue, and they give a really sort of awesome shimmery kind of color. You can see I've used like a black shimmer and silver shimmer there as well. I use this little sticker as my sort of anchoring point of my heart, so it becomes my title. I cover it with a little bit of clear gesso, again just to seal it, because I'm going to paint that same watercolor background over that just to help blend it in and tie it in with the layout a little bit more. All right, so that's my little heart project, which started off with one thing in mind, tried a few different things, and then ended up being nothing like what it was supposed to be in the end. But I actually, yeah, the final product is something quite different in my art journal, so I'm happy enough to go with it. Thank you so much for watching. I hope that you enjoyed, and if you have any comments, I'm always happy to hear them. Any feedback, most definitely reach out and let me know. So thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed, and if you haven't already, please subscribe.